Let's look at some of the financial reporting that's available in the General Ledgers module. We'll just start at the beginning and look at the General Ledger trial balance. The trial balance will show you for the current accounting period, which right now I have set as April of 2002, show you in a hierarchical structure all of your accounts with your beginning of the month balance for both debits and credits, your this month balance, which would be the items that have been posted to this month, and then finally your ending balance, both debits and credits. On the trial balance, you'll also see at the end of the report your totals, your total credit, your total debit and credit balance for the month, beginning of month, current month, and end of month, and that will allow you to make sure that your accounting system is in balance. Next, you have the balance sheet and income statement, which is probably one of the most important reports. Again, for the balance sheet and income statement, you can select an accounting period that you want to run the report for, and that can be any period from the current month, or from the current year, or from the prior year, or from the next year if you have data that moves ahead into the next year. You can't print or reprint the balance sheet and income statements for accounting periods that are over or that come before the prior year. So we couldn't, since we're in 2002, we couldn't print anything for 2000 anymore. You have the option of printing a detailed or a summary report. The difference being that the detailed report will print only accounts that have balances during that accounting period. The summary report will only print accounts that have balances, and the detail report will print all of your accounts whether they have a balance or not for that accounting period. You also have the option to do a traditional or a structured report. The traditional report is a little bit more simplistic in the way that it lays out the data, and the structured report shows you the accumulation of your money in your general ledger through the different levels of accounts, and we'll take a look at both of those. But let's look first at the traditional report. We'll send that out to the screen so that we can preview it, and you'll see that you have a group for your asset accounts where it just lists each of the detail accounts that has a balance with the total, and then the total for your assets. You have then your liability accounts below that with the subtotal, the income and expense summary for the current period, and then the balance that leaves you with for your current earnings. Or actually, the current earnings would be the current earnings account, and then your total capital would be that balance, including the income and expense summary, which then can be used to calculate your liabilities plus equity, which should balance with your total assets, which it does there. So that's the balance sheet, and then once it's printed that, it'll print the income statement, which will show you total revenues, total expenses, with your gross profit calculated. Again, not much information here. And then at the end, a summary with your net income. Let me show you quickly, using the balance sheet and income statement, how the structured report looks. A lot of people like this because it gives you a little bit more information on the report. You'll notice that on the structured report, instead of just having the detail accounts, which is all that we saw on the traditional, we also see the general accounts. And so all of these balances are for the accounts underneath the current asset account, which should store an accumulation of those balances. And then you see that all of these should accumulate up, and over here we have a total percent of what the total amount is. And then we have the total assets, total liabilities, and the same information, liabilities plus equity, which the numbers should balance. And the income statement operates the same way. We see the total structure of the accounts, and we see the balances as they move up through the accounts. So if you want to be able to see balances in your in your general accounts instead of just in your detail accounts, then the structured report is the report to use rather than the traditional. In addition to printing a balance sheet and income statement for an individual accounting period, you can also print the balance sheet and income statement for a year end. And again, you have the option to print last year's balance sheet and income statement or this year's year-end balance sheet and income statement, which is going to give you year-to-date totals. And then you have the same values. The detailed or summary specifies whether or not it's going to print empty accounts, and the traditional or structured specifies what the layout of the report is going to be, and we're going to see the total values for the whole year rather than just the values for a month at this point in time. The next option that you have in your financial reports is the general ledger chart of accounts. This is a fairly simple report. It just shows you, in fact we already looked at it in the initialized new system, just shows you the structure of your accounts the way that it's currently defined as a reference. It doesn't show any balances, it just shows the structure. The next set of reports are the activity reports, which can be very useful, especially when you want to understand why an account has the balance that's in it. The activity report can be run either by period or by date, and will show you all of the entries that have been posted to an account for that time period. Let's go ahead and we can print this for a range of accounts. Let's go ahead and let this print for everything since we don't have very much data on the system, but you could use the pick list to select whatever accounts you wanted to select to print that report for, and then using the activity report by period option, you specify which accounting period you want to view it for. The summary or detail option here allows you to condense the report down to make it a little bit more meaningful. We'll print the detail report first and then come back and take a look at the summary. Oh, we don't have any data there to print, so let's go ahead and do the activity by date range so we can make sure we get some data in there. And we'll start with the beginning of the year and go through today. And again, let's look at the detail, and we'll send that to the screen. You'll see first of all that you have a section of the report for each account number, and if we zoom out on that, you can see here's one account, and that's going to show all of the activity with the ending balances, and then you have the next account, and that's going to show all of the activity for that account. If we zoom in on that, the one difference between this report and the accounting report or the activity report by period is that the by period report is going to show us a period beginning balance and a period ending balance, which we can't show for the date range because we don't know what the balance was as of any specific date. We only know as of the end of each period. But if we look at what this version of the report shows us, you'll see that we have a source field. The source field tells us where this posting came from. So for CORD, that would be a customer order creation. A COMD would be a customer order modify. We have accounts receivable entries, we have AP entries, plus a manual check entry, and then we have some bank reconciliation entries. If you want to know what each of those codes stands for, oops, that was the wrong button to push. Let's go back in and pull that up again. Oops. You can go to the end of the report, and at the end of the report you'll see a key that shows you what each of those source values is, where those postings come from. Let's go back to the beginning now. You'll also see for each posting if that was posted as a debit or a credit, and then at the bottom you'll see your total debit and credit postings with the total difference. And then you'll see that for each account. We can move on and see the other accounts that are included in that report. Now if you take a look here, you'll notice that here, for example, on the 29th, we have several postings altogether that are customer order postings in the accounts receivable account. And when we're trying to see day by day what's happened with our accounts, that can make it very difficult, and maybe we only want to see a total. And so what you can do is, selecting the same report, you can choose to run that by a summary. And if we run a summary of this report, what you can do is select which of the specific types of postings you want to summarize. And so you see here a list of what the valid types are with their description, and then you can select yes or no which ones you want to summarize. Some things you probably want to see summaries on and some you don't. The items that you select yes, rather than printing all of the detailed transactions for each day, you'll see one entry for each day showing you a summary of the postings for that type of transaction. It should be noted that CORD, COMD, and CODL, which are the customer order add, modify, and delete options, will all be lumped together as one set of postings on the summary report. Let's go ahead and see the report the way that it comes out now. If we come down here to the the checking account, you'll notice that we have, for our CORD account, we have summaries now. This is a summary of the customer order transactions. This is a summary of customer order transactions. And we see just the total. Let's go look down here in the accounts receivable. Remember, we had several transactions for the customer orders that were all broken out, and now using the summary option we just see the summary of what those transactions are.